came down steady, cold, uncaring. People walked faster to avoid it, never glancing down at the soaked bundle on the sidewalk. The baby's cries were sharp, desperate, swallowed by the city's indifference. A uniformed officer walked past, hesitated, then kept moving. Across the street, Anita Graves sat in her warm office, eyes on the child through tinted glass. She muttered, almost bored, "Another junkie drop-off," and went back to typing. Then a black car pulled up. No fanfare. Just Keanu Reeves stepping out, hands in his coat pockets, eyes locking on the child with a stillness that silenced the moment. He crouched slowly, one hand reaching out as the cries softened. "You didn't choose this world," he whispered, voice barely above the wind. "But maybe the world can still choose you." He wrapped the baby in his jacket, stood tall, and walked toward the building. Anita finally looked up. He didn't speak when he walked in, just held the baby close to his chest, rain still dripping from his sleeves. The lobby smelled of mildew and coffee. Fluorescent lights buzzed above. Keanu stood silently at the front desk, his presence unfamiliar in this place built on paperwork and avoidance. The receptionist glanced up, recognition flashing across her face, followed by discomfort. She tapped her keyboard louder, hoping he'd go away. He didn't. Anita Graves stepped out from the hallway, a file in hand, eyes narrowing when she saw him. "You're not authorized to bring children in directly," she said flatly. "You should have called emergency services." Her voice had no weight behind it, just routine. Keanu didn't respond right away. He just adjusted the baby in his arms, gently covering the child's forehead with his palm. "You had 47 minutes to respond," he finally said, eyes steady. No one came. The words didn't raise his voice, but they pierced. Anita's hand tightened around the file. A young intern, maybe 20, watched from a distance, frozen. She had seen this before. Babies left on their doorstep, paperwork delayed, assumptions made based on skin color, family history, zip code. The system was never designed to catch them. It was designed to sort, to filter, to forget. Whispers began. A reporter who had followed Keanu's car stood quietly outside, camera turned off, but voice recorder on. Another worker whispered to her colleague, "He's holding the baby the whole time. They still haven't even offered a blanket." Inside the silence, the tension grew heavy, not loud. It didn't need to be. It was in the way Anita kept blinking, and how no one made eye contact. Flashbacks unfolded like cold files spread on a table. A black mother once denied emergency placement because she'd missed a phone call. A toddler misfiled under non-urgent and sent to a foster home 2 hours away. Victims whose names never made it past the intake form. Anita had signed them all. Names she never learned. Stories she never heard. Keanu remained still, waiting. Not for attention. For accountability. "This child almost froze," he said softly. Not accusing, but unshakable. "Because someone here decided not to care." His voice didn't tremble, but the room did. Anita didn't respond. She stepped back into the hallway. And just like that, the story stopped being about a baby and started becoming something far bigger, something the system could no longer look away from. The baby stirred once, then settled again in Keanu's arms as the room buzzed with low murmurs. The emergency press hearing was hastily assembled, glass podium, microphones like spears pointed at the truth. Reporters filled every corner, some sitting cross-legged in aisles, others standing shoulder to shoulder along the walls. The building, once a fortress of silence, now echoed with anticipation. Keanu didn't speak. He just held the child, still swaddled in his coat, as if shielding him from more than just the cold. Anita stepped up to the podium, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. She wore the same blazer from the day before, but today it looked thinner, less certain. "We acted according to procedure," she said, voice tight. No protocol was broken. But her eyes darted, first to the cameras, then to Keanu, then down. She knew what was coming. The footage had already spread. The baby crying alone. The clock ticking. The front desk ignoring. An investigator leaned into the mic. "You were notified a child was abandoned. Why did no one respond for 47 minutes?" Anita's tone stayed even, almost rehearsed. "We assumed it was a prank. It happens sometimes." Keanu's voice didn't rise. He didn't need it to. Assumptions based on whose face? Silence swallowed the room whole. No rebuttal. Just breath held by dozens. One mother watching from a shelter covered her mouth, tears running silently. A man in a hospital bed whispered, "I was that kid." A past staffer, long gone from that office, sent in an anonymous affidavit confirming what everyone already feared. Priority was determined not by urgency, but by race, by history, by the perception of deserving. "This isn't about me," Keanu said, eyes steady on Anita. "It's about how many babies like him didn't get lucky." Anita's mask began to slip. Her voice wavered mid-sentence. A photo flashed on the screens behind her. Her, smiling beside two white adoptive parents in the same building. The caption dated just 3 years prior. That baby had a home in 48 hours. This child had waited in cold silence alone. She opened her mouth, but the words didn't come. The weight of every unchecked box, every delayed call, every looked-away file sat heavy now. She wasn't cruel, just used to the comfort of indifference, trained by years of bureaucracy and blind spots. But now the silence had turned on her, filled the room like judgment. And for once, it didn't blink. Weeks passed. The storm of media coverage had quieted, but the echoes lingered in hallways and in boxes. Keanu no longer stood in front of cameras. There were no interviews, no staged charity walks. Just him and Noah, wrapped in a soft blanket, sitting in a quiet garden at sunset. The wind stirred the leaves gently. The baby's hand clutched Keanu's shirt as he looked out over the horizon, not searching, just breathing. Anita was dismissed quietly. No court trial, no apology, just an empty desk, a few clipped conversations, and a resignation letter printed on standard office paper. She didn't protest, didn't fight, maybe because she knew there wasn't anything to fight. Her phone had stopped ringing. Emails stopped with it. And slowly, her name became something else. Not a villain, not a martyr, just a symbol of what the system lets fester when no one is watching. One afternoon, she sat on her couch, television flickering. Keanu appeared on screen, holding Noah in a sunlit park. No press swarm, no microphones, just the two of them. He smiled. The baby laughed. It wasn't performative. It wasn't a statement. It was peace. But even that somehow felt like justice. Her fingers hovered over her laptop. An unread email blinked at the top of her inbox. Subject line, "We need to talk." It was from her daughter, estranged for years. Anita didn't open it. Later that week, neighbors passed her in the hallway. No eye contact. No good morning. Just silence. Like the one she'd once used as armor, now turned against her. A sealed letter from Internal Affairs rested on her kitchen table. She hadn't opened that, either. Across the city, Noah's path was different. He was placed with a loving family within days. Keanu personally vetted them, visited their home, spoke with their neighbors, stayed for dinner. He didn't adopt Noah, but he stayed present, quietly funding systemic reform, attending closed-door panels, speaking only when needed, always with clarity. No grandstanding, just change. In a voiceover later recorded for a training program, he said, "We don't choose where we're born, but we can choose who we protect." His words weren't meant to inspire. They were meant to remind. This wasn't a rescue story. Not really. It was a reckoning. A quiet proof that when one person dares to see what others ignore, something shifts. Months later, a mural appeared outside the Child Services building. A painted baby smiled beneath the caption, "Every child matters. No exceptions."